Hi, I'm Matt Hill from National Parks at Night. Today, we're going to explore re-editing your old night photography, why you'd want to do it, and what you can learn about it that'll help you in the future. Come on along, let's learn. All right, first thing we're going to do is we're going to pop into Lightroom. I've picked out 3 images that I not only took but processed from Arches National Park about 3 years ago. And what I want to do when I'm looking for old images to reprocess is first I'm going to say, what was my final? So I'll go like this and I say, all right, my final, it looks good. But I've learned things in the 3 years since I made this image, since I made this image, and this image. And I want to reapply those things. So I'm going to go back in and say, all right, let's kick it off with this first image. First thing I'm going to do is right click in the grid view and choose create virtual copy. This copy one you want to leave alone. That's the original settings that you had. Then go back to the original raw file, go to the develop mode, right click on that image, go to settings and reset. If you hit the backslash, you'll see it goes to nothing. You hit the backslash again, it's there. That's fantastic. So the first thing I like to do is to click enable profile corrections. If I flip back and forth, you'll see that it just takes care of known lens aberrations. Boom, got to do that. It'll save you a lot of trouble. If you fix things and then turn it on, you're going to have to unfix some things. The next thing I like to do is go to the dehaze and turn that up no more than 20 something, right? You start to see some of the stars come out here as it clears up the haze in the sky, and that's a beautiful thing. Next thing I noticed is, and I'm going to close this side panel so we can see it bigger, is that there's a lot of shadow detail that needs to be pulled out. I'm still in a good place because it's not hitting the left hand side here on the histogram, but I want to pull that out, so I'm going to just increase the exposure of everything, and look at that. It's now a little bit sparkly. It's beautiful. I still have detail in here, and that's a beautiful thing. I still have room in this raw file to open up the shadows a little bit. And right here, just looking at the histogram, I know I haven't lost anything. I'm in a good space. Going back and forth between this, just right there, the basic edit has drastically improved this image. I see a lot of the good detail in here by Delicate Arch. I still see the highlights on the snow from the full moon. Everything's great. I even see the filth on my lens from opening it up in the desert. So I'm going to fix that right now. I'm just going to grab the brush. This is not part of re-editing because I would have done it the other time. When you do this, just make sure that you're not pulling off of a star when it happens. So far, Lightroom's making good choices. Oops, except for there. So we're going to move that around. Get rid of the healing brush. And now my filth is gone. Let it re-render. This is looking good. I'm going to try something new also. I'm going to take a gradient. I'm going to take one of these gradients I made while I was at Crater Lake. It's called Milky Way Crater Lake. Imagine that. It has contrast 39, highlights 44, whites 15, clarity 19, dehaze again 5, and minus 18 defringe. So I'm just going to take this puppy and pull it down. Check where it is by hovering over the center. That's pretty good. Pull it down a little bit more. Yeah, I like that. And I'm going to then, yeah, I see even more of the sky. I really like that. You can turn it on and off to see what happens. You see the dramatic difference just by adding that gradient and not making a global adjustment, which is something I wasn't thinking about 3 years ago. So there we go. That right there added a lot of goodness. I want the arch to stand out a little bit more. So I'm going to take that same brush. Crazy, right? It's meant for skies. I'm going to test it out. I say here, can I pull out some detail in there? And look at that. Just doing that little bit. Made some good stuff happen. Turn it on and off. Did anything work? No, didn't. So that's fine. Nuke it. I'm just going to take an exposure, simple exposure brush, pull it up maybe a third of a stop, somewhere around there, and rough paint in. I don't want to make it too false. And then really jam it over to the right and see what happens. Alright, that's it's kind of a good place. I do that big exposure just to say, am I in the right place? Yes, good. I'm going to say shadows up. I'm going to pull the contrast up a little bit too. And I'm going to go up with the whites. So now what I'm doing right here and pulling the blacks down is starting to create more contrast in there, trying not to do this in a way that makes it look entirely fictitious. So that was the original light. That's with a little bit of punch. And we'll go back out and see the entire effect. Original raw file. Now that. Now let's see what happens when I pull it into Silver Efex Pro. So we're going to make a copy. Wait for Silver Efex to pull it in. And since then, I lost my library and rebuilt it. So now I have all new favorites in Silver Efex Pro. All of my recipes over here have changed dramatically since that time. My tastes have changed. My favorite thing to do is to simply go through all of my presets. And I watch for details. I look in here to see if it makes the skies look better or worse. The contrast and the details around here better or worse. This is pretty cool because you can see the radial of the sky, and it's sort of drawing attention here because it's throwing a vignette on. Vignettes you got to be careful with, right? So the difference between these two, pretty cool, right? No. Maybe if I was feeling in a low contrast mood. This seems like a high contrast scene. Pulling that out. That's a little bit creamier. I like that one. That's headshot 01. Meant for headshots. Crazy, right? Talking through it. No. Secret. It's so secret I'm not going to use it. Superhero. 2 years later. Ha! See, re-editing is something I do. And then this one, Tiny D01. This one looks pretty amazing. After that, I'll probably crop in here. Even though I like this part of the bowl, it's sort of distracting me. But I like that Tiny D one. And Tiny D versus, what's the other one I liked? Giant's Causeway. No, Giant's Causeway has issues up here with putting too much detail in the sky. It's making noise up there. The Corey Allison one looks pretty fab. Yeah, Corey Allison versus Tiny D. Yeah, I'll go with Corey Allison. And then I will tweak it from there. So what do I want to be different here? Well, I want there to be less structure in the sky. So there's a global adjustment to structure going on here. But I'm going to pull this out and I'm going to say affect that area. I'm going to decrease the structure here. Good, right? I might decrease it even more, which is counterintuitive, right? There's all those stars, right? Copy and paste. Bring this guy over here. What it's really doing is just balancing out the amount of structure that I have over here. I do that in 3 places. It should cover the entire sky. That's nice. This one I'll bring up a little bit so the effect is over there. Pull my cursor out of the side. And we can compare them. Before, after. Don't like that. But I do like what's happening in the sky up there. So I'm going to save this off and I'm going to compare it to the other one I did. And just for the purpose of saying, alright, I've made another decision, right? So let's go back into Lightroom here and let's just compare these two. Right? The big difference between those two He's going to say, wow, I have different tastes now. I did go for the dramatic last time. What was the difference? This time I chose to bring out more detail in the arch, which I think is successful for the image. I left a lot of noise in the sky. You see that before? There's a lot of noise and or over-processing that I did back then. I have more detail, I think, here, but in a softer, kinder, gentler way in the snow without crushing the blacks. And I think the sky looks beautiful, although it's not too dark. And I still have elements of motion here, both with the stars and with the light clouds, those light high cirrus clouds that we had. So, that's one. Shall we move on? Let's look at the next one here. This looks mighty, to me, mighty overprocessed. My color eye is saying, that's a lot, Mr. Hill. So we're going to make a virtual copy. And this time we're going to work on the copy. And I'm going to reset this one. Let's say reset. And now, look at how lackluster that is. And look at how filthy my lens was. Ooh, my sensor. Ew. So, first thing we do, enable the profile correction. Second thing we do, tiny bit of dehaze. Oh, look at that sky come in. Oh, it's beautiful. Love that. Number 3, my histogram says over here I can move up. So I'm going to pull up the entire exposure and everything gets more brilliant. Except the sky is just blowing out. And I think I'm losing highlight detail. So maybe I'll bring it up just a tiny bit. And then I'm going to work the shadows like this. I might pull the blacks down just a tiny bit. And I'm going to bring the highlights and the whites up a little bit. And I'm going to bring them back down when I do the final edit. But if I look in here, hit my backslash, that was the first edit, which is kind of garish. Second edit, pretty good. I didn't have to paint in here, which it looks like I did last time. Let's go back and take a look before. Yeah, I definitely painted in here on the insides. So, c'est la vie to that, right? But this sky does need some help, doesn't it? So let's try that gradient again, right? If we take that same crazy sky gradient that I have, pull it in from 2 different sides. One side here, checking by hovering. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then I'll just, for that, also pull the exposure down. It's sort of balancing out the sky on the left and the right. The moon's on the left, obviously. And I'll pull up the highlights even more. Pull up the whites even more. Try and get more contrast in there, right? And then, since we're sky only, I'm going to go for a little more clarity there. That's fantastic. Since I kind of like this, I'm going to say over here, save the current as a preset. I'm going to say arches sky re-edit. And now I have that one. Before, after, and now I'm specifically editing this one knowing that I'm going to go to black and white. I'm not trying to go crazy, and I'm going to switch this one back over to the Milky Way crater lake so it doesn't have all that extra exposure to it, but it does have all that extra clarity and good stuff. So now if I zoom in, I see there's a lot of stars in the sky, which is exactly what I was looking for. I'm going to clean up the nasty little gremlins here. Pull that guy out. Pull this guy out. Pull this guy out. Did I get all of them? Yes. And now we're going to go straight to, because I know it's going to work well if I leave all of that detail in there, I'm going to go straight to Efex Pro. Last one we liked was Clara BK, or Corey Allison. The Corey Allison creates this weird halo effect around that rock, and I don't like it. So I'm going to take a look at some other ones, do my regular shtick, which is to flip through everything, looking at the most important parts of the photograph, this time faster. I say, which one brings out detail, drama, contrast in a way that makes me love this image even more than when I first saw it. So far, I'm not seeing anything that doesn't create a darn halo, which means I'm probably going to pick something flatter, kind of like Superhero here, and then pull out some detail. That's interesting. I just don't want all of this to happen, which is the breaking up of the background detail here. So I'm going to go through it one more time and see if I can find something that keeps a creamy sky without this halo effect around here. Look for it and you'll see it. And this one seems to be close. Crater Milky 01. And this one's also pretty good. Okay, so let's start with Devil's Tower, this one right here. I'm going to zoom in, take a look at the details, sort of scroll around. The rock looks pretty, but we might want to choose to bring out a little bit more detail in this rock. Check the size, right? Within the rock, it's okay to bring up the structure. And look at that. It pops. I'm going to do a little copy paste on that one. Check the size over here so I don't affect the sky. Copy paste on that. Paste again over here. Paste again over here. Just a little bit of detail in the right places will make amazing results. Click off. Move out of the scene. Now that's starting to look beautiful. Now we got to take care of the sky. Next thing I'm going to do is pull another control point, put it up here in the corner, make it big until it almost touches that rock, and then I'm going to amplify the blacks. And here come the stars. I can play with the size of this also. And I can also play with the placement of it. If I wanted to, I can increase contrast and start to pull out some of that detail too. But I don't want to bring in too much more structure. I actually want to decrease it a tiny bit and then amplify the whites against the blacks, and now things start to pop. Copy paste on that brush, pull out of the side. Now we're looking really good. Let's zoom in to make sure our work is good. I think we have an issue here. There's too much going on with the gradient here. So we're going to back down on the structure. See if we can fix that. No, that's causing the problem. So these are the things to watch out for when you do too much processing. You're going to pull out gradient issues. So you might want to leave some areas alone upon closer inspection, just to make sure you don't cause gradient issues. We'll zoom in again over here. I don't see any gradient issues happening there. So we're going to check this out. And then I think the foreground needs a little more crisping, because I like all this detail, but I just want to see more crispness. So I'm going to add some structure to that. I'm going to go crazy to see how far I can go with it. And then I'm going to drag this around until I see changes happen. Zoom in to help. Now there's where you can see there's way too much structure, right? Bring it the other way, see what happens. I probably want to add like 16% there, just to add a little bit of pop. Zoom back out, see how big this thing is, right? Maybe add a little bit more over here. And then save it. I'm going to go check this against my previous edit. Alright, so this is what we have. I'm going to take a look. The one on the left is what we just edited. The one on the right is what we did before. Not a huge amount of difference. Let's take a look at the things that matter in the photo. Here's the things that matter. This area in here, I'll highlight it to show you, looks over-processed. It simply looks over-processed. As here, it looks a little bit more natural, right? Back then, I was crazy about structure. Crazy. So crazy, in fact, that you can see stuff like this happening. Right? You see those edges, and then you look over here, and it looks just more natural, right? And look at the sky in here. You'll see that there's a lot of obvious noise, right? Which can be helpful. But over here, the sky looks more natural, looks more creamy. The decisions that I made today seem to benefit the image more. Not in this corner, though. I can go back and try that again, but it looks like it broke up a little bit over here, which is distracting to me. It takes the viewer away from the image. So I think that this was a better edit. The detail over here looks better, but everything's over sharpened, and this is a little bit more natural. So again, I think this is a more successful edit. And what did I learn? My tastes have certainly changed, and I should use less structure, which I learned also. So let's make a virtual copy of the third and final image we're going to look at. Create a virtual copy. We're going to go to the copy itself and develop. I'm going to reset it. I'm going to see the original file, raw file, a little dull and listless, but a perfect exposure. If we look over here, right? Nothing hitting the left, nothing hitting the right. Right in the middle. And this was the edit, the before and the after. So now let's set about fixing this. First thing we do, enable profile correction. Second thing we do, dehaze some and see the sky pop. Ooh, ooh. Yeah, we'll go to like 20 on that one. And the next thing I want to do is the sky is, we got this crazy under third composition here because the sky, big sky, is supposed to be the winner. So I want to make sure that the stars in the sky pop as much as possible. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of those evil gremlins. Desert dirt. Get rid of those guys. And if I hit a star, it's because I'm moving fast. Good. I think that we can try and drag this out a little bit, right? Pull the shadows down. Nope. I want the sky to go pretty dark. So let's see. Right in here, we've got nice edges, good highlight control. If we try clarity here, just to watch what happens, we can see what happens when we go in and structure this thing up, right? It seems to create a false dark center to me, even though it's not so false because of the position of the moon off my left shoulder. So I want to see a little bit more in the highlights. Trying not to kill those brights, those whites. A little bit more in the whites, right? Or back off on both of those. Take our gradient, which we've learned to use. Pull that gradient down. Hover over the center. Which looks good to me. And then maybe we want to pull the exposure down. Bring the whites way up. The highlights up even more. Look at that. Now the sky's sparkling. The before, the after, and it's not as garish. As a color photograph, this would leave room for, say, titling. You know, if you wanted to put words across the top here, it's nice. Before I lost, I think, the whites there. Although it creates enough contrast, let's zoom in on this so I can show you. If you watch in here, I lost this detail here, and that was a poor edit. Now I go back in, the detail's still there, right? Now it's ready for me to convert. I'm going to say edit in Silver Effects. And even quicker this time, I'm going to flip through and choose one that makes the sky the star, and we'll take care of the bottom separately. First one, no. No. Maybe. No. No. Oh. I do like that. Maybe without the vignette. Crater Lake Longburn. No. No. So far, Crater Lake Longburn's looking good. This one's cool, except the sky looks, the gradients are falling apart there. No good. Too much structure. Giant's Causeway. So Crater Lake Longburn. Oh, that one's a smooth sky. That makes the sky look amazing. So J.C. Booney. That's pretty cool, but we've crushed the blacks here. Out of curiosity, let's see what happens if we pull away unamplified blacks. The sky still looks pretty good, right? Huh. Let's go back here and say shadows. See how minus 8%? We go up here, make that around 0, right? I don't know about that. We'll go back to the maybe. Oh, that one had a little bit of crush to it. This one's beautiful. I think with some extra brightness, Multnomah might work out nicely. You gotta check the sky. Make sure we're not creating noise there. This was an older camera, which I loved for years and years, the D700, but it doesn't do nearly as well as my D750 at killing noise. Oh, Superhero 2 years later. That might be a win. Let's take a look at our highlights here. Oh, Tiny D. Tiny D looking good again. That's crispy. Sky's the hero, right? So what do we say was our favorite from back here? Crater Lake Longburn. Let's check the sky. Not too much damage in the structure, which we can pull back all the structure over on the right hand side here and make sure we're not over structuring. And then we go down here and say it looks like there's too much vignetting, right? So let's pull that vignetting off. Now we're back to a good place. Let's start working on the sky. We'll go back up, add a control point in the sky right here, make it big, do a lot of stuff at once. Down with the brightness, up with the structure, just a tiny bit, and then amplify whites. Copy paste outside of that cloud, copy paste again in center, and I think we've got something beautiful. Alright, let's save it. We got a beautiful sky. Let's do our final comparison here. We have this one, the Edit 2, and the Edit side by side. On the left is the new Edit, on the right is the old Edit. Radically different choices. The one on the right looks like it's even more face lit, right? Same image, different edit. You can see there's a lot more noise in the sky with this one, and the sky on the right with the old one didn't have as many stars. So this new edit is more successful at showing all those stars. Beautiful. Is one better than the other? It's really up to you to decide. But I think we did a good job with this one. This one looks open and lonely and cold and beautiful. And I feel small when I look at this. Not in a bad way. Wrapping up, it's good to know what you're looking for, what you've learned, and it's a great practice to go back and re-edit some images, because you might take something that you thought was either a dog or your best work, and apply the things you've learned in the meantime, and learn even more from that process, not only about what to do and what's possible, but how tastes can change. And that's something to realize, is that it's an evolution. As you grow into this, you should evolve, you should change, and it should be getting better, right? That's what we all assume. But one of the ways to make sure you always get better is to review what you did. Be honest with yourself about the things that you did wrong before, and since you have a raw file, fix it, and then republish that image. And maybe write a blog post about saying, hey, this is what I used to do, and this is what I do now. And if you do that, give us a ping. We'd love to see it. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Matt Hill. This is National Parks at Night, and go seize the night. Have a great day.